You're live.
Hi, I'm Elemi from Yeyeo Botanica. Welcome back. We're doing it today no matter what. Q&A for ancestor, altars, and all those types of questions. Remember, we're www.yeyeo.com, your modern approach to traditional beliefs. We supply all different types of spiritual and wellness supplies. And so this is why we talk about all different types of subjects. I first want to thank all the people who are here today helping me, Rose, Erica, Jamie, and everyone else who has helped us along the way. Thank you all for your support. I welcome you guys. Thanks for waiting. And first, we're going to answer some questions that are the hot questions that you guys ask about all the time. I'm going to do my best to answer the questions. I like to tell people there's no finite answer for certain questions. And so I will do my best. And there are lots of resources that are out there. And hopefully we are one of the main resources that you use and that you will share in the future. So the first question that we have today, ladies, which one is that?
They're still, Trina, everybody's still saying hello right now. Your skin is glowing. So we will have any questions in the chat.
So I want to hear about where people are from. I really loved hearing about where you guys were from the last time. This time I have help because I was so overwhelmed the last time looking and reading from all of you guys. So now I have some help with some eyes for other people to help me look. So where are my people from so far?
Nigeria, Detroit.
We've got Nigeria, Detroit.
UK.
Theodore is from Nigeria. Eyes Wide Open is from the United Kingdom.
United Kingdom.
Philly's in the house.
Belize. Woo!
Atlanta, Baltimore, Rockville, Maryland, Birmingham, Alabama, Mississippi, Cali, Texas. Texas, sending you lots of love.
Texas, got a lot of you guys.
Nashville, Brooklyn.
Nashville, Brooklyn. I used to live in Brooklyn.
Bronx.
I used to live in California. Bronx.
Italy, Oklahoma.
Italy. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I love my Europeans. Italy.
St. Croix.
St. Croix. What? I used to live on St. Croix. My family's from Frederiksted. Yay! I love that.
Ottawa, Canada.
Canada. My Canadians in the house. Love you guys.
Florida, DC, Maryland.
All right. Very good. Well, you guys have been waiting. We're going to pop back in with you. So I want to start some questions. And because I have some help today, just be a little patient if I'm listening to what they're saying first. Thank you. So I first want to talk just really briefly about why do people have ancestral altars? You know, I think it's, as I said in a couple of my videos, I think it's really interesting that people today are really lifting up the ancestors. And so there are a couple of people who I've met along the way who have been adopted, or they lived with a family that was not their birth family. People who are, I call soloists. They don't really have anyone around. They don't have any connections. And I always say that you can still put something for your ancestors. Why? Because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be here. And, you know, sometimes people go, oh, my family lineage or my family today, I have so many problems with them, I don't get along with them or whatever, right? But if we're being so limited, right? And I always say that human beings are so limited in the way that we look at the world. And if we're so limited in how we're looking at life and looking at the world, and we're only seeing the family that we know that we may be having issues with, for the people who are having issues with their family and they have some resistance to having a space to lift them up. Remember, This is now. There's easily 4, 5, 6 generations that have come before you, and a lot of their blessings you have, right? There are people who they have the gift of singing, the gift of artistry, the gift of gab, the gift of making things, cooking, dancing, expressing, bringing people together. All of these different ways of being, a lot of times are passed to them from the ancestors, right? The people who, and there, I know there's someone in particular, I'm not really sure if they're saying this. And so I'm going to be speaking a little bit to you, who the Spirit is talking to, but it's a couple of you guys that fall into the same category. The Spirit says that you're a person who you do not deal with your family, yet you are very successful. You're well known in your field, if you will, and your financial picture is very good. And whenever your finances go down, it's like magic. Boom, you turn around and everything is worked out. These are blessings from the ancestors. So that is something to be honored. And I tell a lot of people, if you have the opportunity to do your DNA, you should do it. Why? Because it tells you all these different places that you have been in previous lifetimes. It tells you about how you have come to be here today. And so if anyone wants me to talk a little bit about past lives, I'm happy to do that. I notice a lot of people have been talking about that. I've been blessed to be certified by Dr. Brian Weiss, who is the leading past life regressionist in the world. He's done presidents, Mother Teresa, all these different people. I've been very grateful to be licensed by him. So if you'd like us to talk a little bit about past life regression and how our past lives and how it affects you today, definitely send me those comments. Maybe we'll make that one of our Sunday meetups together. So the first question that I have here is, I don't have pictures of my ancestors. Is that bad? Absolutely not bad. So it's not good and it's not bad. You just don't have them. If you have their names. So I just want to say the name of the person. It's Andrew from El Paso. He put this question out. So if you do not have pictures, totally fine. If you have names, fantastic. If you do not have names, and this comes up a lot, people say, oh, well, I only know my mother's side. I don't know my father's side, or I don't know his last name, things like that. Just put last names. If you do not have individual people's names, all the Browns, all the Moses, all the Jones, all the Libas, I lift you up, right? So you can put their names. You can also put mother's side names listed, father's side names listed, but pictures are nice to have, but definitely not a must-have, right? So my next question is from Shannon. How long do I wait to put someone on the altar? Fantastic question. I encourage you to watch my Ancestor Altar Mistakes video, in addition to my Ancestor Altar Must-Haves video, because I do answer that question in the video. But if you haven't seen that, or for those of you who want a refresher, we have here again, Shannon. How long do I put someone on the altar? So there are a couple of things. It depends on your school of thought. So depending on your family lineage, so different religious groups have different time periods. And so if we're talking about from a Christian perspective, some people believe it's a minimum of 40 days, right? And we can have a whole video just on 40 and what that's symbology. But in the circles that I teach a year. Why do I do that? Because it's 4 cycles. It's 4 cycles of the earth plane. We know that a baby does not come out in 1 cycle. A baby comes out in 3 cycles, right? The number 3 is very important, which is 9 months. Well, 9 is the number of the dead, and so on and so forth. So again, for people that I mentor, I tell them a year. And I just want to say, I may say this a couple of times, you guys who was with me for the last live, and I said, if you're serious about mentorship and learning, I gave my email address, which I'm going to do again today. Please do not put in the comments, how do I reach you? I'm not going to respond to those. I try to respond to a lot of them, but I definitely am not going to respond to that, because you need to have seen the video, and we had to be together for me to share that. And so the email address is Elemi, ELEMI, at Yeyeo.com. Like, let me show you something. So again, Elemi at Yeyeo.com. Please, if you are serious about transforming your life and working on your life, then you're ready to work with me. If you're kind of just exploring and you're not really sure what you want to practice, I have many people who can help you to get to that place, to be ready for mentorship with me. So next question. So we have Trina. I do not have a private place to put an ancestral altar. Any suggestions? Got lots of those, honey. So many years ago, let me look for a little tissue and drink a little water and get a tissue. So about, it's maybe about 14 years ago, I had a lady who was in a shelter. She was in a shelter with her daughter. And when she contacted me, in order for her to see a big change in her life, her ancestors requested that she do something for them. So I told her, do you have a windowsill? She said yes. So I said, put it there. So if you have a windowsill in your space, you can even put like a little temporary dining table. You know, those little ones that you open up, they're only about this big. You put a white cloth, you put a large vase of water, ideally. If you can't put that, like, you know, flower vase or something. We sell the beautiful goblets, but use what you got. And you put the white cloth, vase of water, cool water to the top, and you can use tea lights. You can use the little small candles that's the size of your finger, and that's it. So some people, they're telling me to talk about this. So some people, they say, well, I can't keep it up all the time. The spirits don't like that. I want to be really honest. That's like you coming to my house and I have a beautiful bed for you, you have your own room, you've got your own bathroom, you know, I have everything for you, right? And every time you come over, I'm like, wait a minute, we got to go set everything up. So now you're either waiting or you can't be comfortable, or I had it for you the first time, but then the next 10 times you came to my house, I had nothing for you. Oh, you got to sleep on the sofa. Then the next time you got to sleep on the floor. Then the next time you got to do an air mattress. That instability, that up and down, is going to make you spiritually not grounded, not rooted. Stability is the key to spiritual success, right? So this is one of the reasons why the back and forth with the altar is not advisable. Okay, they're saying to talk about this too. So I do an ancestral altar class every year. I've recorded that class, I don't know how many times. We are going to have another one, and that will be listed for those of you who are part of our YouTube family list, which is usually in the description box of our videos, and it will be at the upload of this one. You will find out about when I do those private classes. It will be also on our website. We will have a Q&A. People will be able to answer questions after that. So, sidebar, when the spirit comes to the altar, right? That's like me coming to your house. And your house always looks the same. And I come in one day and it looks like a house that came from Japan or came from some other place. And I'm like, where am I? Right? It's kind of like when you have that dream and you're like, where am I in this dream? Right? Where is this place? Consistency is really important, especially when you're new with your altar all the time, but especially when you're new, so that the spirit continuously has a consistent place that they come to over and over and over again. So that today it doesn't look like on Joe's house, and then tomorrow it looks like my place, and then another day the candle's here, but then it's over here, then it's over here, then today there were 10 glasses, but today's only one, and tomorrow there was white candles, but then the next day it's only red. You need to try to keep it as consistent as possible. The flowers on the altar is the one thing that I would say, don't worry about that. If you have fresh flowers and after a couple of weeks they die, okay, well, I haven't gotten around to getting more flowers today. Okay, so then the next week you do it. You don't want to become a slave or a prisoner. People that I mentor, you guys know who you are. I always say, do not become a slave to the spirit. Don't neglect them, but don't become a slave either. Okay? So I gave you a suggestion about a private place, which is, it could be a windowsill. It could be in your bedroom, because I know you guys have questions about it in the bedroom. It could be in the bedroom, but I always like to tell people put it in a closet. That is safe if you're going to put any candles in there. Or you get a screen and you put the screen around it so they know this is my room inside of your room. Okay? So we've got Jordan. I have a strong connection to my father. He wasn't in my life as a child, and I found out he passed away. Can I put him on the altar or get a reading? I think it's totally fine to put him on the altar. If he's passed for a reasonable period of time, you know that he hasn't passed under any self-inflicted circumstances or nothing that is really violent and tragic. And it's been whatever the period of time is that either one I've discussed or two that you're comfortable with. I think it's totally fine. When you're putting him on the altar, though, you need to make sure that it's refreshed that day and that you're putting down things that are inviting for him, food, some light, fresh water, maybe some flowers, because flowers are very good, especially for the dead, but definitely when you're introducing spirits to the altar. Okay? So next question, Sherry. How to connect to my ancestors? General question. Well, today we recorded an ancestor power bath. Woo, woo. You guys are going to love that. You know, the biggest thing that you need to do is to pray. I don't care how many kinds of things people want to use, spiritual baths. I'm a big, strong proponent of that. I believe that that strengthens and it pulls different guides. But prayer is the most important. And you need to pray with intention. Do you mind passing? There was a bag over there with some books. I don't know where they are. So you need to be praying for them, not for you, right? So there are quite a few people that I read and the spirit will go, this is all about you. What about us? And they go, well, I put water there, I put food there. Yeah, thank you. But the spirits are like, we need to hear what we need to uplift us, right? So my suggestion is that people find different kinds of prayers from all over the world. If you come from a Christian perspective, you're going to need to read the Bible. You're going to need to read some Psalms. because this is what helps to elevate the spirit in their realm. If you were a Muslim, I'd be telling you to read from that, the Quran or the Torah, right? Any perspective that you have, that your family lineage has, that you are aware of, you need to first start with that as your foundation, and then you can start branching out. So as an example, I'm an ordained minister, so the Bible that I use is either my Bible from childhood, which I love, or I'll use a leadership Bible, right? Because I get to read, and then I get to also look at what are some of the lessons that are in this passage in particular for me, that Spirit is giving to me, that I read with them. But as an example, my grandmother, my great-grandfather, so on and so forth, these are religious people. I'm not going to go to the altar just only talking about myself. I'm going to go and I'm going to give them some prayers from what they consider to be spiritual food, right? This is what they love. This is what they want to hear. In addition to playing music that sounds like things that are cultural for them. So as an example, people are from the Caribbean. If you have an altar, you need to be playing some Caribbean religious music, right? And play some regular music that they would have listened to when they were alive. But if you are non-denominational, you come from a non-religious family, you still need to say some prayers from the Bible. Why? Because a lot of people's names are religious. That's one. And two, if in your immediate family they're not, 9 times out of 10 people in the New World have something from Christianity. And then you can bring in, like I love Baha'i prayers. I love Hindu prayers, all these different things. Bring these things into your practice so that then you can also touch more ancestors as you're praying. But prayer, 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 right? That's the first way to connect, and food, right? Because we all get together around food. All right? Thank you. So, Elsa, can you add someone who died violently at your altar? Man, I wish you guys were present. I wish you guys were here in person, because we've had this question so many times. Again, you need to see the videos for altar must-haves and altar mistakes, because we talk about that at length in that video, but this is still a hot subject that comes up all the time. Violent deaths should not be added to the altar. I'm going to say it again. Violent deaths should not be added to the altar. Self-inflicted deaths like suicide should not be added to the altar. People who have had a long history of violence and maybe some substance abuse and have kind of caused their own demise, it's not advisable to add them to the altar unless you have very strict instructions. I want to give you guys as much information as I can, but in a live and in a one-off question, I can't address exactly your situation. So this is a general answer. I would not add them. Even people who have died of really, really bad illnesses where the person was angry about their illness and angry about leaving the earth plane, you want to get that checked. You definitely want to find out, is it okay? Is the person enlightened enough? And so to the flip side, or the under part of that question, and the answer is, if a spirit is not enlightened enough, they really should not be at your altar. Why? Because they're going to be living off of your life. This is why you have light at the altar, to enlighten the spirit, right? So definitely come and take my class. I think you've taken a lot of notes, even though I provide notes in my classes. So the next question. And so ladies who's helping me, if any of the answers seem like I need to add some more, definitely let me know.
Well, one of the topics coming up is, well, I've already had this person on my ancestor altar all this time. Now what do I do?
Now you get it read. That's what you do. You find someone to read that particular spirit and ask about that particular spirit. Is this person supposed to still be here? Because sometimes you have to put a separate altar for that person where they don't get to integrate with all the other spirits. They need to be by themselves. Some spirits can be very problematic in someone's spiritual frame. I give an example. You guys know I love to give examples for thousands of people after 20-something years of readings. So I had a situation where someone that I was going to initiate, they had a relative on the altar. And the relative died under some of the circumstances that I mentioned earlier. And the person started focusing on that particular relative, started burning candles for them, all kinds of stuff. They almost lost their job. Things started jumping off, car accidents, you name it, all kinds of stuff started happening. So much so that the person was driven to have a reading. When they had a reading, they were told, you pull the spirit who is more in the dark than they're in the light. And it's almost like the person who's in a glass building with a baseball bat breaking all the glass. So I'm not a dead person. I can only just speak to you about my experience, what they've told me, what I've seen. I do contact, so I contact people who are deceased and so on and so forth. So if you already have them there, it may not be a problem. You may have enlightened them enough that they're okay. But I would definitely, when having the opportunity to read that out very specifically, to ask someone who does contact or someone who is very versed in ancestral and work and dealing with people who are on the other side, definitely asking about that particular person. And I think it sounds like what you're doing is fine. And I believe that person who's passed on is a male. Right, because I don't think it says that here. It doesn't. But the person you're asking about, I believe, is a male. Eyes wide open, 360. So next person. We have Sierra Leona. I was adopted. How can I set up an altar? Well, that was the first thing we talked about in the video. I said altars can be set up for people who are deceased. People for the deceased. Altars can be set up for people who are adopted, who are in families who are not their own. Don't worry about that. When you put it up, you start with 1 glass of water or tall glaze of water on a white cloth with a small candle for 9 days, little small ones for 9 days. And you just say, I open this table, I open this altar for all my ancestors of love, peace, and light. Now you guys are really learning something that I give to people that I mentor. Love, peace, and light. If they're not coming for any of those reasons, this altar is not for them. And you need to make that very clear. Because by saying those things, you're also cording off the space for your guides and your ancestors in love, peace, and light. And if they're not for that, then those things are not for them. Okay, so did I answer that one? Yeah, keep me posted on. Oh, I had this one here. Sencio. Hope I said that correctly. How do I know when to add additional glasses to my altar? I have had 3 glasses for 3 years. I love that 3-3 thing. So I have to say that that's not something that's easy to answer just in this medium, because I don't know what your glasses are for. The 3 glasses that you have, they're supposed to have a purpose and have an assignment. I don't know what yours are for. I think that it depends on how advanced you are in terms of your spirituality, your connection to your people, what gifts, what energies have come forward. Are you dreaming them? Are they giving you guidance? Do you know that that connection is strong and that it's there? And adding additional glasses are very much tied to people's lineage. So a lot of times people, I go to their house or I look on Zoom and they're showing me what they're doing, and they have some people have 7 glasses. that is a move up from the 1 or the 3 glasses on your altar. So for a more advanced altar, people have 7 glasses. People have 9 glasses. I've seen 12 glasses. I've seen a numerous amount, right? So I would have to say that 1, that's based on your development. 2, it's based on guidance that you have. And 3, it depends on what school or what lineage, what line you're in terms of how many glasses you're supposed to have on your altar. But I think that if you're feeling that feeling, I wonder if I'm supposed to put more glasses. That could also be your people kind of saying it's time to get to the next level. And so next level doesn't necessarily mean glasses. It could mean they want you to get to the next level of your learning how to take care of them. I'm going to be doing a video very specifically on a couple of videos on some things that are necessary to strengthen your connection and strengthen the power or the energy, the ashe of your ancestors with you at your altar. All right, this is fun. I'm enjoying this, guys. I'm really appreciating being here with you. Because so many times I see these questions, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't answer this question every single time. So it's so good to be able to do it now. All right, so we've got Princess Nubian. I find having an altar invites spirits that keep me awake at night. How do I stop the spirits from interfering in my sleep? Well, good luck with that. So if you're doing a lot of spiritual work at night, nighttime is their daytime, and daytime is their nighttime. So this is why they're really active at night. So my suggestion is that you not do too much at night. Like if you're going to do things at night, maybe you give yourself an hour before you go to bed, kind of wind down a bit. If you have an altar in your bedroom, you need to put a screen around it. So to kind of say, okay, you guys need to bring it down. This is your room. This is my room. If you're very sensitive spiritually, that can also contribute to you being much more aware of them at night. But one of the things that's kind of a old school thing that I've told many people, and we tell people in the store, is you can put a little bit of camphor and water by your bed, but that's really more to keep away disturbance, bad dreams, things like that. I'm not really clear if you're saying that you want to stop the spirits, so it feels a little bit like they're disrupting you. So that's where the camphor would come in versus they're just keeping me up, right? So there are other techniques that can be used, but I would say that if you're doing spiritual things right before you go to bed, that's going to keep you up. If you're taking strong spiritual baths right before you go to bed, that's going to keep you up. So you may want to do some of those things, maybe an hour or so at least before you go to bed. And again, I don't know you, but if you have a lot of activity spiritually in your space, that's maybe something that you may need to look at. It could be that your house needs some kind of spiritual adjustment, especially if there are a lot of spirits that are not yours. And I get the impression that there are some spirits that are there that are not yours. Okay, next. Is it this one?
Shout out. These are people who want to show you some love.
Oh. Oh my God, children, I love you guys. Hey, we got St. Croix. Woohoo! We've got Robin from Brooklyn, Phyllis, my goddaughter, hello. Elaine from Canada, hello. Thanks for joining. It's been a while. Thank you for the shout outs. I love you guys. Thank you. Is this a question? Oh no, these are more. Greenville. How do you pronounce that? Nisha. And?
Femme Divine from London.
Femme Divine from London. What a name. I love that. When I'm coming to London, I'm going to have to give you a shout out. Definitely so I can see you guys. Are there any other questions that you have? Because we're going to be wrapping up shortly.
Well,
Not related to questions, not related to ancestral altars?
people were asking about putting other things to their altars, such as items related to the Orisha, statues,
Okay.
colors, things like that.
Okay. Let's talk about past lives. Are many people? A lot of requests about past lives.
You mentioned in the beginning.
Okay, I may talk about it a little bit, but that would be for another us getting together live. So I want to get to one of the things that people talked about. And so again, my friends, my pretty people, the video on must-haves and mistakes for the ancestral altar. It is listed in our channel. I want you guys to watch that because most of your questions are already answered in those videos. But I'm going to mention it again, especially for you guys who are kind of new to the family, right? An ancestral altar, if you have your ancestral altar here. So this is one of my ladies. She's here visiting and she wanted to come today and she's here. She's looking all cute. Got all her little bracelets. She's just got this. She's got chains. I had to take some of her bing bang off. But she wanted to be here in the video with us today, one of my people. So if you have an ancestor altar, it's not for Orishas. Ancestors are dead people. I'm going to say it very bluntly. Ancestors are people who have walked the earth, who are, okay, got it. So there's a ladder, and I've done quite a few classes on this, people who are in my meetups from New York. I started the first nationwide Orisha meetup group in the United States. And that group is now going on 15 years. All the other groups that have done Orisha this, Orisha that have come out of my group. We've been the first in the United States. In that group, I've talked about the ladder, the spiritual ladder of the levels that spirits are on versus Orisha, as you think about Ifa, the Yoruba faith, and so on. When you're talking about ancestors, Orishas are not supposed to be on an ancestor altar. They're not dead people. It needs to be separated. So I tell people, if you are limited on space, then let's say the middle part is for the ancestors, one side is for Orisha, one side is for something else. They should not be mixed up together, right? For people who are into Catholicism or they have patron saints of a family. Let's say in your family, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your aunts, your uncles, whomever, they dealt with, let's say, St. Clair. They're saying to use that one. St. Clair is the patron saint of the family. Then maybe St. Clair's statue would be by the ancestral part because this is what the ancestors look for. But overall, saints don't get mixed up with the items for the ancestors. Spiritual organization is a part of the key to your success. Remember I said stability? Spiritual organization is something I'm very big on. I teach it. This is one of the reasons why I do these videos, because the more organized we are spiritually is the more clear our messages, the more clear our communication, the less diluted it is. Did I answer that one? Any other questions? Because we're
There's quite a few.
up.
We're about 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
So we have about another
to get
50.
ready to wrap up.
This is not, it's not necessarily ancestral.
Okay. I want to address this at the end just in case. Are there any other relevant questions? That are related to the altar, related to ancestors, not other things.
Jamina says, how do I ask my ancestors for advice or guidance?
Okay. Jamina, who asked about how do I ask them for advice. So I'd like you, Jamina, please, because they're looking to see. I want to know, do you have an ancestral altar set up already, Jamina? Did she say yes or no?
We're still looking. I don't see a message yet.
So, as I said earlier, prayer, right? So if you go to your altar, you have a plate of food, you have things that they like, right? You're refreshing the altar. That's the time that you ask for what you want. I like to tell people, ask for things that are realistic. Ask for things that with your energy and their help, you can manifest. Don't ask for something that you have no idea how you're going to get it. In other words, it's something that is beyond you. So I'll give you an example of something that may be beyond you. I don't know you guys, and I definitely don't know your particular situation. I'm just giving an example. Let's say that person wanted a job in a foreign country. I don't know why they're talking about England. Okay, so let's say someone wanted a job in a foreign country. They want to move to England for a job, right? And the job is to be the producer of a particular reality show that's in England. Well, if I don't work in TV, I don't have any experience in TV, I've never produced a show, I don't have a passport, and I don't have the experience, then why would I be praying about that? Ancestors can't make that happen. They can make it happen if I go start to work in TV. I start to get my experience. I start to get the kind of experience that they're looking for in England for this position. I'm just using something random. Now, once I've amassed those things, so they can help me get a job, they can help me volunteer somewhere, they can help me meet the right people. So I need to put these things in place for them now to have tools to work with in order to help me to this job in England, right? So this is why I'm saying you need to look at what you're asking. That's one. But yes, you can ask them for whatever you want that is within your scope. Absolutely. Okay. So, okay, Luna Express. Is it okay to use fixed or prepared candles on your altar? If we're talking about an ancestral altar, if you're just starting, no. If you're advanced, yes. I would say, though, that fixed and prepared candles are usually, generally speaking, usually very focused around intention, love work, money work, open road work, jinx breaker work, so on and so forth. And that is not overall for the ancestral altar. Can you ask about those things? Absolutely. Should you be burning different kinds of work candles? No. In the video where I say the ancestor mistakes, I talk about don't slave the ancestors. So yes, you can absolutely do intention candles that are fixed. I would not do them on the ancestor altar. If I was limited on space, I would do it on the floor and not on the table. If you're preparing white candles for your ancestors, then, absolutely, you can prepare some really beautiful things for them to uplift them. But it needs to be about them, not about you getting them to do something for you. That's not that's not really how the ancestor altar works in that way.
I have a general question. If you don't have pictures, can you just write down your ancestors' names?
I said that in the beginning of the video.
Okay.
All right. So I just don't want to keep going back. And especially for those of you who have been watching from the beginning, I don't want you to necessarily get frustrated with me repeating the same answer over and over again. So we are going to upload this live. So you'll be able to kind of go back very slowly and see some questions answered that maybe you may have come on a little bit later that may have already been answered. This is from Sandra. Is an ancestral altar the same as a spiritual
cuadro espiritual.
So again, this depends on your school of thought and it depends on your training. The ancestor altar encompasses some of that, but if you're talking about from a Spanish perspective or a Latin perspective where they talk about the bóveda, well, the bóveda is oftentimes called for the ancestors, but there's also a part of that that is really only for your spirit guides. If you have Indians that are spirit guides, madamas, Francisco, Francisca, all these different gypsies and so on, those normally are not integrated into the ancestral altar. It can be on one side and the other side. Remember, we talked about organization, but is it the same? It's more the same for the word bóveda versus, that word is throwing me off.
Cuadro espiritual is like your spiritual court. Spiritual court.
No, spell the word.
Cuadro.
That's what I thought. This is a typo. Okay, because I never saw that word. Okay, so that's just a typo. Yeah. So did I answer that one?
I think so.
Any more?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. This is a very nice question, Deborah. How do I know if my relative dad is at peace? I have no idea. That's something you have to read out. Unless he's come to you in a dream, and that's something you can also ask the spirit. Can you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign from you? You say their name, that you are well. You're at peace, right? There are many ways that you can get that. You can get that through just looking at symbology in the world. If you go to spiritual masses, spiritual circles, anyone who is interested in participating in my virtual spiritual circles, comment. And when the video gets uploaded, please comment. I do private spiritual circles on a regular basis, and we've been doing them on Zoom, and they've been extremely effective. For people who are already mediums, who are already developed, you can sit with me and sit with some of the other people that I mentor and definitely learn how to grow your gifts, participate with us in community, receive spiritual information, give spiritual information. If you're interested in participating in my private spiritual circles, comment. But when the video uploads, definitely use our list, our YouTube family list, to let me know that. But definitely feel free to comment here if you're interested in participating in the virtual spiritual circles. These are private circles. They're not open to the public. So if I don't have your email, right? So I did answer the question about how do you know if your father's at peace. So I'm going to leave that. So I'm going to get ready to answer my last question. Is there anything else before I answer this one that's a little bit unrelated?
There's one question from Talma G. She says, is it okay to make offerings to my husband's ancestors on his altar when I do mine? They're on different sides of our shrine room, but I dedicate more time to upkeep.
Absolutely. So I cook for my husband's ancestors, and I love doing that. Absolutely. When you live in a home and, people may have their spouses have altars, or your partners. I had this come up this past week where one spouse put their partner's ancestors on their altar. XXXXX. No, they're supposed to have their own altar because you do not share the same ancestry as your spouse. If you do, then we need to have a separate conversation. That may be in a certain country, but definitely not in the United States. So people are supposed to have separate ancestors for the most part if you are in a relationship. And so if you're working on your connection with your guides and you have your spouse's people there, they can become very dominating. They can want more food and more this or more that. And if the family lineage of the other person is not the same as yours, that's just adding a whole bunch of confusion, which is just a sidebar. That question was not asked in the video today, in the live today, but it definitely has been asked to me in the past. So I just kind of wanted to address that. Absolutely, she can give them food, coffee, water, all of that. I wouldn't get into refreshing their glasses. I think that is really the responsibility of the person who has it, and that's a way that the ancestors see the person putting in some level of sweat for them, some level of effort for them. We're not talking about, God forbid, the person is ill or they're not available to do it once in a while. That's a different story. Or if you have a small child, that's a different story as well. And nobody asks about children, so I guess when you guys take my class, you're going to ask them. But in terms of putting food, absolutely, that's totally fine.
The last one, it may be a class question, but Lunar Empress is asking, does it mean the ancestors are pleased when the water on my altar is full of bubbles?
Yes, now we're getting into class questions. So I'm going to answer this one. So the bubbles is fantastic, right? So the air element and the water element is a part of what moves spirit. Spirits, S, and spirit with no S. In general, spirits travel through the air, and the water is a catalyst for the spirit, in addition to the fact that water has oxygen. So absolutely, when you see that, it tells you that the spirits are coming. They're coming to absorb whatever the energy or the forces that you're providing for them. Good? All right, so the last question that we have today, and I really appreciate all of your participation. Really, really appreciate it. I've never done a Q&A this way, only in live or classes. And so I hope that answering these questions today really help you guys, and definitely help your friends, family, people that you know who are getting on this journey of honoring your ancestry and honoring your lineage. It's really great. It's an upliftment. It heals a lot of pain in families. It heals so much. And so I hope in you guys' life that it really heals your life, and it makes you feel empowered when you're walking in the world. I'm here. My troop is behind me. My army is behind me. Let's go, right? Versus feeling alone and feeling disconnected. I pray that you having a space for your people uplifts you, and ups me. This has uplifted me as well. Just sharing this information, having spirit saying, "Oh, I want you to take my stuff," and all of these different things. So the last question that we have today, I keep wondering, this is a sidebar thing. So you guys know I have my bell, me and my bell. And, and I love ringing this bell. I ring this bell in my house. I ring it at night. All the time I'm ringing my bell. And so there are a couple of times where I did like this session with people, and I rang it at the end before I said goodbye. So I'm curious to know what you guys think, if I should be ringing my bell at the beginning and the end too.
Yep.
But here's a question. So this is a non-ancestral question. This is from Wayne Davis. It says, my house is 100 years old. I had it cleaned. It worked, but the activity returned months later. Any advice? Yeah, you got some stuff in your house that needs to totally be removed. And it could be where the property is located. And so sometimes we take for granted where our properties are located, where they live, where they built this house on, right? And sometimes there's spirits of the land that you cannot get rid of. You have to become friends with the spirit and say, well, I'm here. I moved to this house and you were here before me. So let's just have peace together. I have a friend who, whenever I used to sleep at this person's house, I would see this guy walking up and down the stairs, or I'd be at the house and I'd be like, is there someone on the stairs? He says, oh, well, the guy, he was here before I bought the house, and he was here with the other owners, and, he doesn't bother me and I don't bother him, and we live here peacefully. If the activity is problematic, then I would have to say that you may need to get some people who are a little bit, I don't know who came to your space or what you did, but there are different types of spirits that are in houses. There are people who have died tragically that are in houses that are tied to the house, and they will not leave the house unless you have someone who can do a very strong exorcism to get them out. There are people who are more advanced. Where are those people who are advanced that are watching this video? Like me, who can trap a spirit in a house.
What?
Where are you? Comment below. So I'm just joking. So you have someone who's really advanced that can trap the spirit and take it out of the house again. So I'm not really clear on what your issue is, but you may want to find out about where this property is located in history, because sometimes that makes a difference. Sometimes that really makes a difference, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, or there are things you can put in the house. Like in the Bakinda system, I'm a priest in the Bakinda system, which is where Palo Mayombe comes from. In that system, there's a type of house that you can put in your house so that visiting spirits stay there, right? Much more advanced conversation. Wink, wink, wink. That's not going to be a 10-minute video, and it's not going to be a live. That'll be a private class. So everyone, I hope that this was helpful. I love spending time with you guys from all over the world. When I am going to travel and visit, I'm going to make a note from where some of you guys are from so I can reach out to you when I'm coming to visit your country. And love you. Keep those ancestor altars going. It is so positive for you. So positive for you, for your children, for your bloodline. And I want to say, because the children have come up 4 times today, and so I wasn't going to speak on it, but I am going to speak on it now before I close. You can integrate and bring your children into your religious practice. They need to know. They already know who some of these ancestors are that passed on when they were growing up. This is good for your family. Why? Because it strengthens your family, strengthens your lineage. It strengthens their connection to themselves, to you, to their extended family. So anywhere that you can integrate your children into your practice in a way that is not intrusive, that is easy for them. I like to tell parents, let them fill the water up. Let them put the food. Let them put the coffee. Little things like that will help them to become even more comfortable in honoring the ancestors. So again, give me a thumbs up. Hit my bell for notifications so that you and we can stay in touch, in addition to my YouTube family list. Remember that list, you will only see certain events that are private, will not be out there for everyone else. See you next time. Ashe, ashe, ashe.